Hello, welcome to One on One. I'm your host, Greg Walker. Oh, we've got a good guest today. I've looked forward to the show. As a matter of fact, I had this guest on in 1997. But what is special about this month, January of 2016, is my guest turns 90 years old this month. He's a good friend. He is a distinguished legal attorney, has a great career. He's done a multitude of things. He's an interesting man. I'm talking about F. Evans Harvill. His friends call him Evans. I want you to settle back, relax, enjoy a fun, down-to-earth conversation with an entertaining, intelligent, and interesting man. Evans Harvill joins us on our show today. We'll visit with him right after these words.
It's not a day you see coming. It may be sunny or it may be gray, but it's not a day you can get ready for. And it's not a day you would trust to anyone but a friend, because it's not just a day in a lifetime, but a lifetime in a single day.
Neil Tarpley Parchman Funeral Home. People that care, a name you can trust.
Hopefully tune in to Heartland Radio, the only locally owned, locally operated radio stations in the area. 105.1 on the FM, WVRY, and the oldest station around, 1400 AM, WJZM. Tennessee Vol Sports, Austin P Sports, the Atlanta Braves, news, talk, weather, and great music. Solid Gospel, 105.1 and 1400 AM, WJZM. Tune in.
The Leaf Chronicle is now available on every device you carry or don't carry. All things Clarksville in all media 24/7. Subscribe now for full access.
Welcome to our show today. Evans Harvill's in the house. Great having you.
Pleasure to be with you, Greg.
Always a pleasure. 90 years young. Mercy.
I tell you, I would like to be younger, but I sure enjoyed growing up in the 30s and the 40s.
You have got so many things that you have seen that have happened in your lifetime. And as I said on the intro, a distinguished career. How many people can say they practiced law over 60 years? And still, I mean, I know you don't work, you're of counsel now, but you're going to the office today.
Yeah, I'm going to the office today, see what's going on, see who I can meddle with. And every now and then they'll have a question for me. And one day, Mike Dale, one of the boys in the office, came to me and said,
It's Harvill Ross, right?
It's Harvill Ross. He said, I'm concerned about something. I said, what's that, Mike? He said, I've run into something that you never heard of. He says, it must be unique. I said, well, Mike, I hadn't known that much. He said, well, I haven't found anything else, but I do know where a lot of the bodies are buried.
I guarantee you. You've got stories to be told. We're going to talk about some, too. We're going to have a good time. Now, you were actually born in Las Casas, Tennessee.
Las Casas, Tennessee. Dad was a principal over there, and my mother was a teacher, and that's where they met.
That's where they met.
And I'll say this, that is God's greatest blessing to me, sending me to Hod and Catherine, because they loved each other and they loved me, and that's the greatest blessing a kid can have.
When you got loving parents.
Loving parents who love each other.
Yeah.
And they open doors for you.
Yes.
And they opened a world of doors for me.
Yeah, you were blessed with great parents.
I was blessed with great parents.
Now, how old were you when y'all moved to Clarksville?
3 years old.
3 years old.
1929, when Dad was on the original faculty at Austin P Normal School it was.
Right.
And he...
Just one building, wasn't it?
No, you had the Stewart Building and the Castle Building. The Castle Building stood where the Browning Building is, and the Stewart building stood basically where the Clement building is.
Uh-huh.
There's a circle drive, and it was fun. I know we moved down on College Street, where the Jenkins Twin car lot is, second house from Fourth. I could walk to I could ride my tricycle on the campus. And then when I was 8 years old, we moved out on North 2nd Street, basically where Evans Harvill are now.
Really?
And so we've always been in walking distance of the college.
Right. Your dad, for you folks that don't know, I mean, your father, state senator for what, 16 years?
16 years.
President of Austin Peay?
16 years. 16
years. He even coached at one time at Austin.
Oh, he was the original basketball coach. In 1930, some of the boys came and asked him, said, we want to play basketball. There's no money for a coach.
Right.
Dad had never played basketball in his life. He went down somewhere and got a book by Hank Abba. From Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And Dad read that book. They had a little gym on the back of the Stewart building that was so small that the top of the key of the free throw circle intersected with the jump center circle.
Short court.
Short. And you had about less than 3 feet between the out of bounds line and the wall.
Tight quarters.
When you drove in on that basket, you had to really put your brakes on.
Sort of like that old gym over at Old Howe School.
And only this one had a balcony. And the old gym at Howell School was a lot longer, a lot bigger.
It was a little bit.
And the spectators sat in that gym up there. I mean, the balcony.
Right.
And a boy named W.C. Ross and I kept score on a blackboard with chalk and a rag. And it was a good experience.
So that's where Austin Peay's basketball started, right there.
I've got a picture of that.
Your dad was the president at that time?
No.
Oh, he wasn't?
Dad wasn't president until 1946.
Oh, really?
After the war. Dr. Claxton.
Well, what was your father doing? Was he an instructor?
He was teaching history.
Teaching history.
Mm-hmm. History teacher. Anyway, he enjoyed it. He loved it. He loved the kids. And it's right strange. After Dad went back into service in World War II, and he ended up at the end of the war. He was working for the AG section, helping get boys back in position after they got discharged, and helping implement the GI Bill. And I got out before he did, and went back to Austin Peay. And when Dad was in Nashville working for the VA, and he was still in service, and he said, "Son," says, "Dr. Claxton's going to retire in this summer, and the VA and the government court has said I can have the presidency if I want it." That's the way it works then. But the VA has offered him a job with a pretty, I don't know the numbers, but pretty good ranking job. Said,
right.
What should I do? I said, "Dad, I know you love the school. I know it means a lot to you, but it's dead. You can't resurrect it."
Talking about the school.
Talking about Austin Peay. I said, "Take the VA and run."
Right.
He said, "Son, I appreciate your advice, but I'm going to take a school." I said, "Well, why'd you ask me?" But
he made a good choice.
He did make a good choice. He got appointed in July of '46. I was just about 2 weeks before I finished up at Austin Peay. Thank God I didn't have to go to school under him. And then during August, while the kids were out of school before the fall quarter, the tower on the Castle building fell.
Really?
And went through one of the classrooms. So that left us with just Stewart building, which had about 4 classrooms in it. And that was
So those were tough times in Austin P history right there.
Dad, he bought some Quonset huts. They had classes over at the Armory. They put up Quonset huts.
When was the Armory built?
Armory was built before the war.
Before the war.
Yeah. I was living on North Sector. I remember when it was built.
Now, you graduated from Clarksville High in what year?
42.
Same year as my dad.
That's right.
Now, wasn't this right? Of course, my father and Evans were friends.
He was. I was very, very fond of Robert Norman.
He called him Robert Norman. Everybody else called him Butch.
But he was a good man. I remember one occasion when I was football manager, one of the boys, I won't call his name, but wanted something I couldn't give it to him, and he hit me in the mouth, a pretty good lick. I knew I couldn't take him, but Robert Norman stepped between them, and I loved him for that. He saved me a good woman.
Now, all right, 42. Didn't those guys, to show you the difference in the time? I know that Dad, I think Huck Weems, I think Butch Harris.
Yeah.
Right after they got through playing their senior year, Pat Edwards, in 42, they didn't continue in high. They went to war. They went to Germany. They was shipped. They got their GED, but they were actually after their football season, they went to basic and then went to war.
That's right.
Times. Boy, that was some.
And I'll tell you, and then you talking about the GED. When I was after the war.
Because those guys would have got college scholarships.
Oh, yeah, they would have.
I mean, they were.
Well, I tell you what, Hardy Shelby, Gatemouth as he was called.
All of them had nicknames.
Got a scholarship to Western Kentucky, playing football.
Right.
He was left-handed. He kicked, and he was a darn good athlete.
I believe that's Artie's dad that's still in town. I might have that wrong.
Shelby.
Yeah. No, Manning. I was
Manning, you
think.
think. But anyway, but then Gatemouth was a combat medic, and he didn't get back.
Right.
And it's always worried me, always hurt me, because I liked.
Yeah.
He grew up right next to Mertland Field, and he had absolutely no athletic ability, but he worked hard. He was a self-made athlete. He'd get out and run. He was real pigeon-toed, but he'd run to make his way he could stay that way.
John Merritt up at Tennessee State, he would not sign a football player if they weren't pigeon-toed.
I didn't know that.
He'd never sign a slew-footed player.
Oh, no.
He said, your athletes are all either straight feet or pigeon-toed.
Yeah. Well, Lee Nally, who was punt returner for Vanderbilt right after the war, he ran like a duck.
Now, those are rare, see.
That's right. He was a rarity, but he was good.
Yeah, those are rare. So at your high school time, good times.
They were great. I tell you, a thing that I've really worried about when I graduated, how are they going to keep it open? I felt I was running that place. But it's right strange. When we had our first reunion, Mr. Kirksey, who was the principal at the time, he was over at Murfreesboro. He came back, and I saw him coming to the dinner at the country club, and he looked at me and said, "Well, Evans, it looks like you turned out all right after all." And I told my wife that he didn't think much of me.
Evans Harvill is our guest. We'll be back, segment 2, right after this.
The Leaf Chronicle is now available on every device you carry or don't carry. All things Clarksville in all media, 24/7. Subscribe now for full access.
Folks, I don't know who your financial institution is, who you do business with, but I do know this. My friends at First Advantage Bank, they have locations all around town. There's one close to you. What I love to say about them is since 1954, they have helped fulfill the dreams of more prospective homeowners than any other financial institution in this area. First Advantage Bank, they're good folks, just like you and I. New accounts, need a mortgage loan, need to refinance. See them at First Advantage Bank. They're a member of FDIC. They're an equal housing lender. Our guest today is Evans Harvill, Harvill and Ross. He has been an attorney in practice for over 60 years in this area. He turns 90 years old this month, January 2016. Went to Clarksville High, went to Austin Peay. From Austin Peay, you found out you wanted to be, I guess, a lawyer, and went to Vandy, right?
On GI Bill.
On GI Bill.
Scholarship, full ride. One thing that was real strange, at that time, the GI Bill would pay you up to books, fees, and tuition, up to $500 a year.
Really?
And I never used the full 500.
You're kidding me.
And that's how much it's changed.
That'd be, what is it, 50, 60,000
I don't have any
idea
idea.
for Vandy? No telling.
But
more than that, maybe.
It was great. That was a great program. You'd turned 10 million young men loose with no place to go.
Oh, man.
And the thing about that, I've thought many times, Dad was president of Austin Peay at the right time. He had been in service. He understood these boys coming back from service.
Right.
They looked at him sort of like the company commander, the old man.
Yeah.
And it was a perfect time.
Well, and you know, you were sharing with us on segment one, if you just tuned in, Austin Peay in the mid-40s, you thought it was about gone. Mm-hmm. You really did.
I did.
And your dad took over, let's say, at 46.
Uh-huh.
All right. The growth of Austin Peay from 1946 has been pretty amazing.
Very amazing. During Dad's administration, 16 years, he got the money to build the McCord building, mm-hmm. the Browning building, the Clement building, the Little Red Barn, the Catherine Harvill bookstore, which was a cafeteria, and 3 buildings down on Drain Street. 8 major buildings.
Catherine Harvill, that name sound familiar?
Yeah.
You proud of that?
I'm very proud of that. That was my mother.
Uh-huh.
I lost her in 1954.
And you, make no bones, you were a mama's boy.
I was a mama's boy.
This woman had a great influence on you.
Yes. And when I was in high school, I remember this one time, in the Purple and Gold, the roving reporter, the question of the month was, who's your perfect woman? And I said, my mama.
Right.
And nobody thought less of it because my friends loved her too.
Right. Just that kind of lady.
That kind of lady.
That kind of lady.
But I lost her when I was taking Air Corps Basic at 18. She was taking radium for cervical cancer. Mm. But God gave me 10 additional years with her. I was 28 when she died. And I don't know what would have happened to me had I not had those 10 years.
Really? So she's the biggest influence on your life.
Biggest influence. My dad was an influence on my life, but not as much as my mother.
Of course.
I know when I came in this world, Mother was teaching.
What did she teach?
Great, in high school. I don't remember the
Yeah.
subject. And she told Dad, she says, it was hard times in 1929. She says, I don't want to continue to work. I want to take care of my boy. And Dad wanted her to. You know, that generation sort of was woman's work and men's work.
You know, I say all the time, some people don't like to hear it, but you're talking about that generation, and then your generation, and my generation, and now my son's generation. I think every generation is becoming weaker to a degree. I think we just continue to, they don't have to, do they have to earn as much? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm an old fogey, but I see it as getting weaker. Inner strength. I mean, you know, our parents, they were strong, hard. How do you get through playing football, your fall season, your high school career, and before you'd be graduating or going to prom, you're fighting in Germany?
That was where some of the boys were.
I mean, good gosh.
And one thing
That's a tough breed.
worries me about the younger generation is so many of them feel entitled.
Great word. Great word.
I'm entitled.
Yes.
And I'm not going to get off on lawyer advertising because I might say some things that you can't say on the air.
Yeah, but, don't hurt my pocketbook.
but I wouldn't for the world, Greg. But, you know, you've got an ad now going about if you don't get your fair share in an estate,
yeah,
basically all you need, all you're entitled to is love and nurture and get you up and get you growing. Give you an opportunity, open the door. My greatest...
Say that again, because that's the truth. All you're really entitled to is your parents to raise you, put you on your own, give you food, shelter, and now it's yours.
And open doors for
Yes.
you, and if you got to walk through them. My greatest Horatio Alger story is a boy named, I had a senior moment.
Why would you have that? You're only 90.
But he went to Austin P right after the war. Arthur Leroy Brooks. Brooks had been a combat medic in the Navy. He wanted to be a doctor. He took a pre-med course at Austin P, went over to Vanderbilt to interview with the dean to see if he could get in med school. And they did all what they do.
Right.
And got through, and the dean said, well, Mr. Brooks, I see no reason why we can't accept you. He said, well, I got one more question, Dean. Do you have any, I don't want any slip up. Do you have any rule that you have to graduate from high school? He said, you got to have a BS degree, didn't you graduate from high school? He said, sir, I didn't graduate from grade school. We were on a farm, the Depression. My dad pulled me out of school so I could work and help feed my little brother and sisters. That war came along, I was a combat medic, I want to be a doctor. And he says, and the dean said, well, Mr. Brooks, if you got nerve enough to try, we got nerve enough to take you.
Really?
That man, when he retired, was head of the Vanderbilt Orthopedic Clinic, and the clinic is the Arthur Leroy Brooks Clinic.
Unbelievable. That's a tremendous story right there.
To a young, and then I've seen him. He's still the same old boy he was. We lived in Calvin Hall. But I admire him so much, and that proves that whatever you want to do, if you've got enough sand in your craw,
you can do it.
You can do it.
Evans Harvill's our guest. Stretch Run, Show 1. You know we're going to do more than one show. Back after this.
It's not a day you see coming. It may be sunny or it may be gray, but it's not a day you can get ready for. And it's not a day you would trust to anyone but a friend, because it's not just a day in a lifetime, but a lifetime in a single day.
Neil Tarpley Parchman Funeral Home. People that care, a name you could trust.
Folks, if it's round, if it's rubber, and if it rolls, They have it at Rabin Tire. Now, Rabin Tire is Clarksville Tire Center. Barbara Ratchford, who was there for years, she is retired, bless her heart. We're proud for her, but they're still at 129 Terminal Road, right across from Governor Square Mall. They have any size tire to fit whatever you need, and the prices are right. Rabin Tire, 129 Terminal Road. Good folks. Our guest is Evans Harvill. Harvill and Ross attorneys. He's been in practice over 60 years, 90 years old this month, and going to be back with us again next week for show number 2. We can't get out of show number 1, however, and we could talk on, and we do a lot, thank goodness. And I appreciate all of your counsel to me over the years too.
Well,
you've been good. You've been like family to my family.
Well, I feel that way. I feel that way because I loved your daddy very much, and he took care of this little kid in high school.
Now, you got a sweet lady, Sherry.
Yeah.
You've been fortunate. You've had 2 great women in your life.
I've been very blessed.
But Sherry, y'all been married 11 years, I think, it was in 2004. But I think the world of her too.
I appreciate that.
You got a good
I think she's done a wonderful job of coming in to this area. Peg had her slot.
Boy, she was so talented.
And such an icon in some regards.
Yes.
And then Sherry came in, and I did not try to pick another Peggy. I couldn't duplicate her. But Sherry has come in, and the town has accepted her. Her friends are wonderful. She's made a place for herself in the church, in the book club, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Her family has accepted me.
It's wonderful.
It's wonderful. It is.
I mean, it is. It's wonderful, and she's a wonderful lady. I wanted to see her this morning.
Well, she doesn't do mornings, but if I'm gonna come back, I'll try to get her up again. If I can get her to go to bed at night.
I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna start out talking about next week.
Okay.
Give you a little time to think about you too. Your relationship with Austin Peay. Of course, your father was the president. You've been close, and we're going to talk about the Tennessee Board of Regents and what Governor Haslam is trying to do now. But it's been wonderful.
Thank you, Greg. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Great, man. Evans Harvill has been our guest, show number 1. Tune in next week for show number 2. Thanks to Steve Sawyer, our guest, for yours truly, Greg Walker. Until next time, have a very nice rest of the day, folks.